Captain Marcus Zhang leaned forward in his chair aboard the Earth Defense Station Artemis, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic display before him. The signal they detected at the edge of the Kuiper belt defied every known law of physics. "Run it again, Dr. Patel," he ordered, his voice steady despite the growing tension in the command center. Dr. Reshma Patel's fingers danced across the quantum interface. "Confirmed, sir. The energy signature matches the VSS horizon perfectly, but she hesitated, that's impossible. The ship vanished during the quantum gate trials in 2224. That's over 200 years ago." The massive display showed a vessel that bore little resemblance to the experimental ship that had disappeared during humanity's first attempt at quantum transportation. Where the original horizon had been a sleek, utilitarian craft, this entity before them seemed to ripple and shift like liquid starlight, its hull composed of geometries that hurt the eyes to look at directly. Lieutenant James Akanjo, the youngest officer on the bridge, adjusted his neural interface. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission. It's using protocols that haven't been in service for 2 centuries, but the authentication codes are valid." Zhang shared a glance with his first officer, Commander Diana Russo, before nodding. "Put it through." The holographic display shimmered, and a figure materialized in the center of the bridge. Captain Thomas Russell of the VSS Horizon stood before them, but he was changed. His uniform was unlike anything in Earth's naval database, seeming to shift and flow with patterns of light that suggested deeper dimensions. Most striking were his eyes. They appeared to contain entire galaxies within them. "Greetings, Earth Command." Russell's voice carried harmonics that made the quantum sensors spike. "By your temporal reference, it's been 207 years, 4 months, and 13 days since our departure. For us," he smiled, an expression both warm and unsettling, "it's been considerably longer." Zhang rose from his chair, protocol warring with the sheer impossibility of the moment. "Captain Russell, I'm Captain Marcus Zhang of the Earth Defense Force. Your ship was declared lost with all hands. The Quantum Gate project was abandoned." "Lost?" Russell's laugh carried echoes of strange dimensions. "No, Captain, we were found. The gate worked better than anyone could have imagined. It sent us somewhere else. A place where what you call physics is more like a suggestion than a law. The beings there, they showed us things that changed us forever." Before Zhang could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. Lieutenant Akanjo's dark skin paled as he read the incoming data. "Multiple quantum ruptures detected, massive energy signatures. Sir, we're tracking 37 unknown vessels entering the system. Configuration matches nothing in our database, but their energy output, it's off the charts." The strange vessels emerged from tiers in space-time itself, their forms geometric impossibilities that shouldn't have been able to exist. They moved with impossible grace, ignoring the basic laws of inertia and momentum. "The Nexus," Russell's expression grew grave. "They followed us back. We hope to have more time to prepare you." He turned to face the tactical display. "They're a species that exists partially in higher dimensions. They see our reality as primitive, flawed. They've been systematically correcting galaxies for millions of years, reshaping them according to their vision of proper physics." Zhang watched as the alien fleet took up attack positions around the solar system. "What do they want?" "To fix this region of space." Russell's voice carried the weight of terrible knowledge. "They'll rewrite the fundamental constants, adjust the quantum fields. It would make this entire sector uninhabitable for any 3-dimensional life." Commander Russo stepped forward, her voice tight with controlled fear. "Our most advanced weapons are based on quantum disruption. If these beings exist partially outside normal space-time, they would be useless," Russell nodded. "But that's why we came back. What we learned out there, it's not just technology. It's a fundamental understanding of reality itself, the ability to speak to the fabric of the universe in its own language." He gestured, and the image of the horizon appeared beside him. "We can teach you, but we'll have to work quickly. The Nexus doesn't negotiate. They've never encountered a species that could meaningfully resist them." The alien fleet began to move, their ships leaving trails of distorted space-time in their wake. Zhang looked at the impossible vessel that had returned from centuries of absence, then at the threat that could end humanity with a thought. The next few moments would determine the fate not just of Earth, but of reality as humans knew it. "What do you need from us, Captain Russell?" Russell's galaxy-filled eyes met Zhang's. "Everything. We're about to teach humanity how to rewrite the rules of existence itself. And then," he smiled that strange smile again, "we're going to show the Nexus why they should have left this galaxy alone." Deep within the secured quantum labs of Earth Defense Station Artemis, Dr. Reshma Patel stared at the holographic equations floating before her, each symbol seeming to twist in ways that defied conventional geometry. Captain Russell's crew had downloaded the first batch of their quantum understanding, and it was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. "It's like learning to speak a new language," Russell explained, his otherworldly eyes tracking patterns only he could see. "But instead of communicating with other beings, you're talking directly to reality itself." Dr. Patel manipulated a sequence of symbols, watching as they reformed into new configurations. "These patterns, they're not just mathematical equations, are they? They're more like instructions to the universe." "Precisely," Russell gestured, and the symbols rearranged themselves into a complex lattice. "Where we went, what you call physical laws are more like guidelines. The beings there, the architects, as we came to know them, exist in a state of constant dialogue with reality itself." Captain Zhang entered the lab, accompanied by Commander Russo and a team of Earth's top quantum physicists. "The Nexus fleet hasn't moved since taking up position," he reported. "They're just waiting. They're calculating." Russell's voice carried that strange harmonic again. "Their existence spans multiple dimensions. Every action they take must be precisely calibrated to avoid unraveling the fabric of space-time itself." Lieutenant Akanjo's voice came over the intercom, tense but controlled. "Captain, we're detecting unusual quantum fluctuations from the horizon. It's—" "Well, sir, you should see this." The group rushed to the observation deck. Through the reinforced quantum glass, they watched as the VSS horizon began to change. Its hull rippled like liquid mercury, geometric patterns flowing across its surface in impossible ways. Parts of the ship seemed to exist in multiple places simultaneously, while others faded in and out of reality. "What you're seeing," Russell explained, "is the ship's quantum architecture adapting to local space-time conditions. Where we've been, this kind of transformation is necessary for survival. The physics there, it's more fluid, more alive." Dr. Patel's neural interface was recording everything, her enhanced mind struggling to process the implications. "The architects, they taught you how to do this. They showed us that reality itself is conscious in a way we never imagined. The universe isn't just a collection of laws and particles, it's a living equation, constantly solving itself." Russell touched the window, and ripples of quantum energy spread from his fingers. "The Nexus believes this consciousness should be controlled, regulated, forced into their version of perfection. The architects showed us a different way." Commander Russo studied the tactical displays, her military mind already calculating possibilities. "Can we adapt our existing quantum defense systems to use this knowledge?" "Better," Russell smiled. "We can teach your ships to sing to the universe to become part of its equation, but we'll have to move quickly. The Nexus won't wait forever." Over the next several hours, the VSS Horizon's crew began transferring their knowledge. They started with the basics, teaching Earth's scientists how to perceive the quantum underlayer of reality, how to recognize the patterns that made up the fabric of existence itself. Dr. Patel was the first to grasp it. Working with the Horizon's quantum specialist, Dr. Yuki Chen, she learned to see beyond traditional physics. The equations weren't just mathematics, they were poetry written in the language of reality. "There," she exclaimed, as a small sphere of space before her began to ripple and shift. "I can feel it like threads in a tapestry, each one connected to everything else." The breakthrough came at a critical moment. The Nexus fleet had begun to move, their ships distorting space in ways that made the station's sensors scream in protest. They were preparing their first attack, a demonstration of power meant to show humanity the futility of resistance. Captain Zhang watched as the alien fleet took up attack positions. How much time do we need? Russell's galaxy-filled eyes narrowed as he studied the enemy formations. More than they'll give us, but we have one advantage they don't expect. He turned to Dr. Patel. Show them what you just learned. Dr. Patel stepped forward, her mind connecting with the quantum interface. The equations she'd been studying flowed through her consciousness, and for a moment she could see reality as the architects did, a living, breathing thing, waiting to be asked to dance. She reached out not with her hands but with her understanding and touched the fabric of space-time itself. A ripple spread from the station, subtle but profound. The nearest Nexus ship suddenly found itself slightly out of phase with normal space, its weapons unable to properly align. The alien vessel's response was immediate and violent, space around it twisting as it tried to reassert control. But in that moment of confusion, Earth saw its first glimpse of hope. The Nexus weren't invincible. They were simply speaking a language humanity was just beginning to learn. That, Russell said with pride, is just the beginning. Now let me show you how to rewrite the dictionary of reality itself. As alarms blared throughout the station, the real teaching began. Earth's greatest minds gathered to learn secrets that would forever change their understanding of the universe. The question wasn't whether humanity could learn fast enough, they had to. The alternative was extinction. The Nexus fleet loomed in the darkness of space, their ship's monuments to a physics humanity was about to challenge. The war for reality itself was about to begin, and Earth's weapons would be written in the quantum poetry of existence. The first attack came without warning. A Nexus vessel near Jupiter's orbit suddenly shifted, its geometric form twisting through dimensions humanity couldn't comprehend. The quantum sensors aboard the Artemis screamed as space itself began to warp. "They're not targeting our ships," Lieutenant Akanjo reported, his voice tight with horror. "They're trying to alter the fundamental constants of space in that sector." Captain Zhang watched as a sphere of distorted reality expanded from the Nexus ship, transforming everything it touched. Within its influence, light moved differently, atomic bonds shifted, and matter itself began to change its basic properties. "Full evacuation of Jupiter Station," Zhang ordered. "Get everyone out before that bubble reaches them." But Dr. Patel had already sprung into action. Working with Captain Russell and the Horizon's crew, she initiated the quantum defense protocols they'd been developing. Her fingers danced across the holographic interface as she wrote new instructions into the fabric of reality. "Reality isn't just equations," Russell's voice carried over the comm. "It's a conversation. The Nexus is trying to shout over everyone else, but we can teach the universe to listen to a different voice." From the horizon, a pulse of energy rippled outward. Unlike traditional weapons, this was more like a wave of pure mathematics, a theorem proving itself across space-time. Where it met the Nexus's distortion field, reality seemed to hesitate, caught between two competing versions of truth. Commander Russo coordinated the defense fleet's response. The ships they'd managed to upgrade with the Horizon's technology moved in perfect synchronization, each one adding its voice to the quantum chorus. They weren't fighting with weapons anymore, they were arguing with the universe itself. "Multiple Nexus vessels moving to support their attack," Akanjo reported. They're combining their fields. The distortion is growing exponentially." Dr. Patel felt sweat beating on her forehead as she worked to counter the alien offensive. The quantum mathematics were becoming more complex, each adjustment requiring calculations that would have taken traditional computers centuries to process. But with the neural interfaces and the knowledge from the Horizon, human minds were learning to think in new ways. "Jupiter Station reports full evacuation," Commander Russo announced. "But we're detecting strange readings from the gas giant itself. The Nexus field is affecting its atmospheric composition." Captain Russell's eyes narrowed as he studied the data. "They're not just trying to change local space. They're attempting to alter the entire solar system's physical constants. If they succeed, every planet from Mercury to Neptune will become uninhabitable by organic life." Zhang turned to Dr. Patel. "How long can we hold them back?" "The current defense won't last," she admitted, her fingers never stopping their dance across the interface. But I think I understand what they're doing. They're treating reality like a computer program, rewriting its basic code. But if that's true, her eyes lit up with sudden inspiration, then we can introduce our own amendments to their changes. She began implementing a new strategy, one born from humanity's unique perspective. Where the Nexus sought to impose rigid order, she introduced elements of chaos theory. Where they tried to force reality into perfect geometric patterns, she responded with fractal mathematics that celebrated imperfection. The effect was immediate. The Nexus field began to fluctuate, its perfect symmetry disrupted by the quantum equivalent of logical paradoxes. The aliens responded by increasing power to their reality-warping engines, but this only made the instabilities worse. "It's working," Russell observed with satisfaction. "The Nexus believes in perfect order. They can't comprehend a universe that embraces chaos as part of its fundamental nature. But humanity," he smiled that strange, star-filled smile, "you've always understood that complexity and imperfection are what make existence beautiful." The battle continued for hours, reality itself becoming a battlefield as human and alien mathematics fought for dominance. Jupiter's atmosphere swirled with impossible colors as competing physics tried to assert themselves. The moon Europa briefly existed in 3 different states simultaneously before settling back into its normal form. But the victory was temporary. Even as they watched, more Nexus ships moved into position, their combined power dwarfing anything humanity could currently muster. "We've proven we can fight back," Commander Russo noted, "but we don't have enough upgraded ships to defend the entire solar system. We need something more." Captain Russell nodded gravely. "It's time to show you the real reason we came back. The architects didn't just teach us to speak to reality, they showed us how to change its grammar entirely. Dr. Patel, are you ready to learn about quantum syntactic restructuring?" Dr. Patel's eyes widened as Russell began to explain concepts that made their previous lessons seem simple by comparison. They weren't just learning to work within reality's rules anymore. They were about to learn how to propose entirely new ones. As the Nexus fleet regrouped for another attack, humanity prepared to take its next step into a universe far stranger and more magnificent than anyone had imagined. The war for reality was entering a new phase, and Earth's greatest weapon would be its ability to imagine possibilities that even the gods of higher dimensions had never considered. Quantum syntactic restructuring isn't just about changing reality, Captain Russell explained as he led Dr. Patel and Captain Zhang through the transformed interior of the VSS Horizon. It's about suggesting new possibilities to the universe itself. The ship's corridors defied Euclidean geometry, spaces folding into themselves in ways that should have been impossible. Yet somehow, the human mind could comprehend it all, adapting to these new rules of existence with surprising ease. "Reality is like a language," Dr. Patel mused, her neural interface processing the quantum data streams that flowed through the ship's structure. "And we've been speaking only one dialect all this time." "Exactly," Russell gestured, and a section of the corridor transformed into a viewing window showing the Nexus fleet in the distance. "They're trying to enforce their dialect as the only proper way to speak, but the universe," his galaxy-filled eyes sparkled, "the universe loves creativity." Lieutenant Akanjo's voice came through the quantum comm system. "Multiple Nexus vessels advancing on Mars colony, sir. They're using a new type of reality distortion we haven't seen before." The group rushed to the Horizon's command center, where Commander Russo was already coordinating with Earth's defense fleet. The holographic display showed Mars surrounded by rippling waves of altered space-time, its very atomic structure beginning to shift under the Nexus assault. "They're not just changing the physics this time," Dr. Patel observed, her enhanced senses detecting patterns in the quantum flux. "They're trying to retroactively alter the planet's entire timeline. If they succeed, Mars will never have been suitable for terraforming in the first place." Zhang watched as the red planet's surface began to shimmer with impossible colors. "Can we stop them?" "Better," Russell interfaced directly with the Horizon's quantum core. We can teach reality to embrace multiple possibilities simultaneously. Dr. Patel, remember what we discussed about quantum narrative structures? She nodded, her mind already racing with the implications. Working with the Horizon systems, she began to implement the most ambitious quantum manipulation yet attempted. Instead of fighting the Nexus's changes directly, she introduced a new variable into their equations, the concept of parallel probability. The effect was stunning. Mars seemed to exist in multiple states at once, each version equally valid in the eyes of reality itself. The terraformed Mars that humanity had colonized, the ancient Mars that had once held water, and even the Nexus's altered version, all coexisting in a quantum superposition that somehow remained stable. Impossible, one of the Earth scientists whispered. The energy requirements alone. Not impossible, Russell corrected. Just improbable, but probability is just another variable in reality's equation. The architects taught us that consciousness itself can influence quantum probability fields, and humanity's greatest strength has always been its ability to believe in the improbable. Commander Russell studied the tactical displays with growing excitement. We're seeing similar effects across the defense grid. The upgraded ships, they're not just resisting the Nexus's changes anymore. They're actively proposing new versions of reality. The Nexus response was immediate and violent. Their ships began to pulse with energy that transcended normal space-time, attempting to force a single version of reality into dominance. But humanity's quantum syntactic restructuring had introduced a new element they couldn't easily counter: choice. Every conscious being in the solar system is now part of the equation, Dr. Patel explained, her voice filled with wonder. Their beliefs, their hopes, their imagination, it's all feeding into the quantum probability field. We're not just fighting the Nexus anymore. We're helping reality itself evolve. Captain Zhang watched as his species took its first steps into a universe far stranger and more wonderful than anyone had imagined. Ships in the defense fleet began to transform, each one adopting configurations that reflected the dreams and creativity of their crews. The very fabric of space around Earth rippled with potential, as billions of human minds unconsciously contributed to the quantum narrative. But the Nexus wasn't finished. Their fleet began to move in perfect synchronization, their ships combining into geometric patterns that threatened to overwhelm humanity's newborn quantum network with sheer computational force. They're preparing their final assault, Russell warned. They'll try to collapse all probability waves into their single preferred reality, if they succeed. They won't, Dr. Patel interrupted, her eyes shining with determination. Because we're about to show them something they've never seen before. She turned to Captain Zhang. Sir, I need authorization to implement Project Dreamweaver. Zhang nodded without hesitation. Do it. As the Nexus fleet advanced, humanity prepared to deploy its ultimate defense, not a weapon, but a new way of thinking about existence itself. The universe held its breath, waiting to see which vision of reality would prevail, the rigid perfection of the Nexus or humanity's dreams of infinite possibility. Project Dreamweaver activated across Earth's quantum network like a symphony coming to life. Every human neural interface, every upgraded ship, every quantum-enhanced system began broadcasting on frequencies that transcended normal space-time. But this was more than just a transmission. It was an invitation to reality itself. What we learned from the architects, Captain Russell explained as the system powered up, wasn't just about manipulating physics. It was about understanding that consciousness and reality are two parts of the same equation. Dr. Patel stood at the quantum interface, her mind merged with the Horizon systems. Through the enhanced sensors, she could see the Nexus fleet approaching, their ships moving with the cold precision of beings who believed in absolute order. But she could also see something else, threads of possibility weaving through space itself, waiting to be shaped by imagination. Their mistake, she said softly, was thinking that reality needs to be controlled. They never understood that it wants to dance. The Dreamweaver protocol reached full power. Across the solar system, every human mind became part of a vast quantum network. Not controlling them, but connecting them, allowing their collective creativity to influence the fundamental forces of existence. Dreams, hopes, imagination, all became variables in reality's endless equation. Lieutenant Akanjo's voice carried a note of awe as he reported, "Quantum field fluctuations off the scale, sir. The fabric of space-time itself is responding to the network." Commander Russo watched as the defense fleet began to move in patterns that defied traditional physics. Each ship was surrounded by a field of pure possibility, their forms shifting between states that reflected the dreams of their crews. "All vessels report ready, Captain. We're as prepared as we'll ever be." The Nexus attacked with overwhelming force. Their combined fleet generated reality-warping fields that should have rewritten the laws of physics across the entire solar system. Space itself groaned under the pressure of their attempt to impose absolute order. But this time, humanity was ready. As the Nexus's change wave approached Earth, it met something unprecedented, a quantum field generated by billions of minds dreaming together. Where the aliens sought to enforce a single version of reality, humanity offered infinite possibilities. "Now," Captain Zhang ordered, "show them what imagination can do." Dr. Patel initiated the final phase of Project Dreamweaver. The quantum network didn't just resist the Nexus's changes. It began to suggest new forms of reality, each one born from human creativity. The laws of physics became more like guidelines, bending and flowing in response to consciousness itself. The Nexus ships faltered, their rigid geometries struggling to maintain coherence in a space that suddenly refused to follow their rules. They tried to compensate by increasing power to their reality engines, but this only made things worse. Their attempt to impose order became a weakness as reality itself began to prefer chaos and possibility. "They don't understand," Russell observed, his galaxy-filled eyes reflecting the battle. "Their power comes from forcing the universe to obey. Ours comes from asking it to play." The battle reached its crescendo as the Nexus launched their final assault. Their combined fleet generated a reality-warping pulse that should have ended the conflict instantly. Space-time bent under forces that could reshape galaxies. But at that crucial moment, humanity responded not with weapons, but with dreams. Through the Dreamweaver network, every human in the solar system contributed to a quantum symphony of possibility. Artists imagined new colors that became real. Scientists conceived of physics that rewrote themselves. Children dreamed of spaces between spaces, and reality listened. The Nexus field met this wave of pure creativity and simply dissolved. Their rigid mathematics couldn't compete with the infinite possibilities generated by billions of minds working in harmony with the universe itself. Ships that had seemed invincible began to fade from existence, their crews facing something they had never imagined, a reality that preferred imagination over order. "They're retreating," Akanjo reported, his voice filled with disbelief. "The entire Nexus fleet, they're running away." Through the quantum network, they could sense the aliens' confusion and fear. The Nexus had encountered something unprecedented, a species that could make reality dream. Their perfect equations meant nothing in the face of humanity's chaotic, beautiful creativity. As the last Nexus ship vanished into higher dimensions, Captain Zhang turned to Russell. "Will they return?" "Perhaps," Russell smiled, "but not as conquerors. We've shown them something they never expected, that the universe isn't a problem to be solved, but a story to be told. And humanity," his star-filled eyes twinkled, "humanity has always been the universe's best storytellers." Dr. Patel watched as the quantum field stabilized, but now with a difference. Reality itself had changed, awakened to new possibilities by humanity's dreams. The laws of physics remained, but they had become more like suggestions, ready to dance with any consciousness brave enough to imagine something new. "So what happens now?" Commander Russo asked, looking out at a universe that suddenly seemed infinite with potential. "Now," Russell gestured, and the horizon's quantum core pulsed with possibility. "Now we begin the real adventure. The architects showed us the door, but humanity will chart its own path through the quantum realms. We'll rewrite the story of existence itself, one dream at a time." As the defense fleet regrouped around Earth, the quantum network hummed with the combined imagination of humanity. They had faced the gods of order and showed them a greater power, the power of dreams. The universe would never be the same, and neither would they. In the vast darkness of space, reality itself seemed to smile, eager to see what stories humanity would tell next.